Hey everybody, it's me, Shay T. Mannon, and welcome back to Queer Talk. If you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe, and share amongst your group and everybody and all that stuff, because we got a whole lot of things we're going to be talking about, a whole lot of guests we're bringing back and topics. It's going to be really great. So let's just dive right into it, okay? So for this episode, I want to talk about a topic that I've been dying to talk about. It's just that I haven't had time and whatnot and all that good stuff. And it actually ties into what I was talking about the last episode that I put out. This topic is going to be talking about the changes of queer spaces. And I'm going to start with the queer bars, queer and gay bars. Anyways, but let's get into it. So lately, there's been a lot of talk online of different content creators and whatnot, them talking about how queer bars and gay bars are changing because the straights are coming in, taking over our space, making it really uncomfortable, and it no longer feels comfortable or safe to us. And that's something that I've been seeing myself. We actually experience it here in Albany, and I'll talk about more my experience with that and everything and such. But this is something, again, that's being talked about all over online. I even touched on it with community members in my documentary called Capital City Pride. If you go onto my YouTube, you'll be able to see it and whatnot, but we talked about this already. But for me, this conversation is not new. Only back then, and what I mean back then is when I came out of the closet over a decade ago, the topic of gay bars changing and evolving was a topic. Only back then, the cause was, it was the apps and the fact that everything became social media versus us going out like we used to back in the 90s and early 2000s before social media became a thing. That kind of ruined it. Nowadays, it's the fact that our spaces are being taken over by people who are not of our community. They're coming in being disrespectful. They're coming in doing inappropriate things, making it really uncomfortable for us as LGBTQ people, and it's causing problems. I'll speak to the experience here in Albany. Albany back in the day used to have so many bars and clubs that folks who are not of our community could go to and they frequent and everything. And that's not to say that back then or we've never had straight people come into our spaces. We have. It's nothing new. However, back then we were the majority in our space. Now we are the minority in our own space. And that's where the problem lies, Because for me, I always say that our existence is always political. It's always been since the beginning of time and such. And right now, with our rights literally being taken away or trying to be stripped away, where we are public enemy number one, especially trans folks are public enemy number one. They're being labeled domestic terrorists, you name it. Now more than ever, we need our own spaces, especially many people don't understand that even though we have come a long way, where we're visible and we're out here mainstream and whatnot, we are still being targeted. We're still being discriminated against. We're still facing all these things and whatnot. And so having our own spaces, being able to be around community and feel seen and feel loved and, have that connection without, being discriminated against or harmed or whatever is important, especially now more than ever, and especially for the next generation coming up and such. And it's just tough. But going back to what I was trying to get at before I lose my train of thought here. In the gay bars lately, there's a lot of straight people coming in. You have I can speak to the experience here in Albany. Albany is a college town, okay? So it's just what it is. And because there's no clubs here that are really stay open to like 4 a.m. and whatnot, other than the gay bar here, Waterworks. And disclaimer, when I speak on this is nothing against Waterworks, nothing against Rocks or any of these places, because I love them all and they do their best to try to look out for community. It's just kind of above, this problem goes above them. But, you know, being that Waterworks is the only club that stays open at 4 a.m. and it's an 18 plus, you know, club, what happens is that crowd that is not of our community comes in. And what I have been seeing is that you have a lot of the straight girls coming in to kind of escape the straight men that are creepy and weird and whatnot. And because the straight girls are not in their spaces, the straight men are coming into our space because they know that they're there. And they're hunting for girls and whatnot, and they bring this homophobic, transphobic behavior and this annoying, obnoxious ass behavior. And they come in disrespecting our space and what we have there, and it's been causing problems. It's causing two communities and two cultures to clash and such, and it's not working because we as a community are starting to not feel safe, you know, being there. We are fed up with them coming in our space and invading our space. And I know for a fact I've told them they can get the fuck out of our space, because I am one that I don't believe that we as queer people should have to share space with people who are not of our community. As my friend John says, there's a time and a place, and our space, our queer space, I'll say this. There is a time and place where we as LGBT people and non-LGBTQ people should come together and, you know, have to be around each other and coexist and whatnot, fine and dandy. But then there are times and places where we don't all need to be together. Everything ain't for everybody, you know. And our spaces, our clubs, our support groups and whatnot are not for non-LGBTQ people, okay? As I said before, with everything going on politically, where our rights are being stripped away, where we are still being hunted, we're still being attacked in all ways, shapes, and form. We are public enemy number one, etc. We need our own spaces. We need to have that connection amongst our community and stuff like that, because this shit is lonely, especially if we want to add race into it. It gets real lonely and it gets real tricky and murky. And so having our own spaces where we can be around our community, feel seen and feel validated and be out and open is important, because there are many community members that are not out, you know, other than when they come out to the nightlife. That's the only time that they feel comfortable being out and being their true selves. But when they go back into the real world, they are not out. They are not, you know, what you see in the nightlife. And when you have people who are not of our community coming into our spaces, making it uncomfortable, them basically doing that predatory shit that they do in their own spaces causes problems. That includes having straight security guards who are not properly trained on how to deal with our community and don't even know pronouns and etc. Having it overall just causes a lot of problems and everything. And I personally wish that they would just go back to their own space. I hate to sound like this, but I really don't care. Queer spaces need to be for queer community only. Like I said, I am not somebody who believes that we as queer people should have to share our spaces. We shouldn't have to always compromise and have to, you know, open up our spaces to people that are not of our community, especially if the roles were reversed. They don't open our space. They don't open their spaces to us, you know. And if you are an individual like that, cool. But overall, there's a reason why we have queer spaces. There's a reason why that should exist. And we should not have to compromise and have to give our spaces to y'all. Especially when y'all don't even come in being respectful to our spaces or our community. Like I said, there's been plenty of times, including this past weekend, where I've had to cuss a few bitches out for coming in our space being disrespectful and doing ignorant shit and everything. And there's a lot of people like, we're tired of having the straights come in here and everything. That's why me personally, I really don't like going out in Albany, especially to queer spaces, because it's always people who are not of our community or the other part, which I'm going to get into after this topic. I'm tired of going out and not being able to see my community, not being around my community, and I'm constantly feeling like an outsider in my own space, and feel, because that's what we are. We're basically the minority in our own spaces. The only reason why I do go out to places like Waterworks and whatnot is because of the staff that are of the community and that have been there for years. I go to support them. I also go because there are new generations of LGBTQ people going into these spaces because they don't know anything else. And me being an elder or becoming an elder, I feel like it is my job to kind of show them the way, you know, and give and direct them to resources and other parts of our community and everything. But truth be told, had that not been the case, I would not return back to the nightlife or the queer spaces here in the capital region, because I'm tired of having to go in spaces and feel uncomfortable because you have straight people coming in our spaces, or you have, you know, a lack of diversity and inclusion in these spaces. But that's the nightlife part. Some solutions are to what I was trying to say in the last episode when we talked about our new mayor trying to revitalize nightlife in Albany and such like that. Once they get all this stuff together, making Albany safe and affordable as it should be, what they should do is, since they want to focus on nightlife, what they need to do is open up more queer spaces for the community, like as far as clubs and nightlife, specifically, and really have it made strictly for the community. Okay, because I'm tired, like I said, I'm tired of having to share space with people who are not of our community, and it gets really uncomfortable and stuff like that. I want to go somewhere where I see my people from my communities, and be able to go out and have a kiki and have a good time. Especially, I would like to see more Black queer spaces. We don't have none of that here. I would also like to see more trans bars and stuff like that. I remember this last Pride, for New York City Pride, I went down to New York City, and I was not trying to get stuck in New York City Pride, but I got stuck there and everything, and I wind up going with a few friends to the Tea Lounge, which is a trans-owned and operated, you know, lounge in New York City. And when I say that I had such a good time and I loved it and it was amazing, I felt at home. While I'm not trans, I've always been one where I've always felt comfortable and safe around the trans community and everything, and I've been always able to get along with other trans folks and such. But in that space, I felt at home, I felt great, it was just amazing and such. And I always was like, I wish that Albany had something like that, because I would definitely go. But at the same time, I would really like to see more stuff strictly for the trans community, for them to have their own space and for them to be able to see more visibility, etc. Anyways, but yeah, I want to see more stuff like that. I would also like to see them open a queer lounge, because no shade, as I'm getting 30, I don't want to go to the clubs all the time and hear that music blasting in my damn ear where I can't even hear my own thoughts. I can't even have a regular conversation with somebody. And I don't always want to go out partying and whatnot. Sometimes I want a nice little lounge where I can go get me a nice cocktail. I can listen to like lo-fi, you know, type of music and just kiki, you know, low key, and, you know, go home at a reasonable time. You know, that's something I would like to see here again. But that's what they can do. They can open up more queer spaces for the community and, you know, have it run by the community, and us being able to have it for us, by us, and not really having outsiders coming in. You know, that's, again, in the perfect world, that's my thing I would like to do. I can't speak for everybody else, but I would like to see us have more queer spaces for us, you know. Yeah, we love our allies. I don't even like using the word allies because to me, everybody claims to be an ally but don't know the first thing how to be an ally and whatnot. I would like to see us have our own spaces, and there's that. But that's the nightlife part. There's the other part that people don't talk about much, and this goes to the nonprofits. Because a lot of these nonprofits have also changed, especially when we talk about queer spaces, and these specifically our support groups. This is something I've seen in Albany. And it has nothing to necessarily do with straight people, but you know what, I'm just gonna say it. There's organizations, not just here in Albany, but just overall, that are culturally specific LGBT organizations, right? They deal with a certain demographic from our community. And yet, when we have these support groups are hijacked by people who are not of that community. Meaning, there's support groups that these culturally specific organizations, meaning BIPOC, LGBTQ organizations, they have support groups out here, and it's supposed to be catering to Black, brown, Latino, the whole shebang, LGBTQ people. And what happens is they let a lot of non-Black, non-POC LGBTQs come in, and it gets really uncomfortable, especially when we start talking about our experiences, or at least attempt to try to speak about our experiences, and you have people who are not of our community, who don't share our lived experience, coming in, and it gets they start feeling uncomfortable. They start doing the things that these type of folks do in spaces that are supposed to be for Black folks and everything. It just becomes too much, and it's the reason why I stopped going to a lot of support groups, is because these spaces that are supposed to be for me and my community and people who look like me are not for me. These are not safe spaces for me to be able to share my experience as a Black gay man. These are not spaces that really center us and our experiences, because they let others in, and it causes issues. It causes problems. Once again, it goes back to us being a minority in our own spaces. And I'm fed up with that. We need our own spaces. If you're an organization that is supposed to be catering to BIPOC LGBTQ people, you need to have it be BIPOC LGBTQ people in these spaces, in these support groups, and allowing us to share our experience, especially in this current climate, or this political climate, where we're going through so much, and especially in a place like Albany, where there's little to no places for us to go. Y'all allow non-BIPOC LGBT people come in and hijack our spaces. And then when it comes up, when it's brought to your attention, you act like you don't know what the hell we're talking about and such. And then you wonder why people don't want to deal with y'all, or etc. Again, there's a time and a place for everything. And when we have spaces that are supposed to be for BIPOC people, let it be that. We don't always need to come together and try to be integrated and whatnot. No. Again, there's a time and a place for everything, and our spaces are not the time or the place and whatnot. Come on. It's ridiculous. We shouldn't have to constantly have to compromise our spaces and have to silence ourselves to make people who are comfortable in spaces that's supposed to be for us, okay? I'm fed up with it. And I've been dying to talk about this because it's ridiculous. This is actually why I stopped going to one of the local groups, because I felt that it was no longer a space for BIPOC, queer men. I felt like back then it was. Nowadays, it's not really a space where we can have honest conversations about the lived experience of Black and brown queer men. It's not a space where we can honestly talk about you know, certain things that need to be discussed, especially again in this political climate and such, and all that stuff. I'm fed up with it. So things definitely need to change. How we need to change that, I don't know, and such, but yeah. But tell me what y'all think. You know, have you guys, especially y'all out there who are BIPOC, LGBTQ, have y'all been experiencing the shifts in queer bars and queer spaces, especially like support groups or whatever, you know? And what do y'all think needs to happen? What do you think are some ideas that we could do to change things? Anyways, I love y'all. Have a great night. Until next time. Mwah.